Saudi Arabia is rapidly transforming into a global tourism and investment powerhouse. And to talk about that at the World Economic Forum here in Davos 2026, I have with me someone who's at the forefront of the effort is the Honorable Minister Mahmood Abdul Hadi, Deputy Minister for Tourist Destination Enablement. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you for having me.
At NDTV. It's really been a pleasure to have you today.
Thank you for having me. I know it's a bit cold today, but it's good.
Cold, but and as the theme this year is Spirit of Dialogues, and that's what we want to do with you here today. To begin with, sir, if you can tell me, how is tourism continuing to drive the broader economic diversification and job creation under Saudi's vision of 2030?
So, again, thank you very much for having me today. Vision 2030 is probably the largest transformation project I think the world has ever seen. We're working to transform a nation, to transform an economy. Historically, we have been very dependent on hydrocarbons as our main economic pillar. And when Vision 2030 came about, the whole point was to make sure that we were able to diversify away from that into a more sustainable economic structure. We looked at the assets that we had. We looked at the deserts that we were known for, but we also looked at a lot of the things that we were not necessarily known for. Our historical sites, our mountains, our shorelines, our people, the potential for our people. We are very hospitable people. All of the key building blocks for a tourism industry were there. So the decision was taken to ensure that tourism was a major part of Vision 2030. And when we looked globally, we set ourselves targets that were in line with global averages. We said we were going to become a destination attracting 100 million visitors by 2030. We were going to be contributing, or the tourism sector was going to contribute 10% of our GDP. And we were going to create 1 million additional jobs. In 2023, we crossed the threshold of 100 million, 7 years ahead of schedule. And because we are who we are, our target has gone up to 150 million by 2030. Today, we have crossed the threshold of 1 million jobs. So the target is 1.8 million jobs by 2030. And the GDP contribution is well on track to be at around 10% GDP by 2030. We're currently at about 5%. All of this means that tourism will become the second largest contributor to our domestic income, and that is going to be a major driver for diversification within the economy.
Absolutely, and congratulations on reaching the milestone and going even further up. But you've spoken about tourism, but beyond hospitality and leisure, what else are you looking at? Whether it's technology, whether it's AI, whether it's transport, what else are you looking to get in there? So
the sectors that you mentioned are very important. I mean, one needs to understand that tourism is a very cross-cutting sector. If a visitor decides that they are going to go on a business trip or a holiday, it starts with the booking platform. It starts with transport to the airport. It goes through getting through the airport, getting on a plane, arriving at your destination, exiting the airport.
The entire journey.
It's the entire value chain. So it's not just the hospitality piece. And what we're focused on doing is making sure that from a visitor experience perspective, that whole experience is as seamless as it can be, and that it contributes to the well-being of the traveler, because ultimately a stressful travel journey means that you will not have a pleasant experience. And then the second thing, of course, is to activate the parts of the economy in those areas in order to make sure that we are creating the jobs and that we're creating the direct economic contribution in the sector. Again, economic contribution is extremely important. We measure the spend in the sector. Last year alone, again, we crossed the 100 million earlier, but we're now at 120 million for 2025, and that has generated an $80 billion spend in the economy, and that's direct spend from the whole tourism value chain.
Okay, great. But I also want to ask you about, the giga projects which we are all hearing about, like the NEOM, you have the Red Sea Global and the Diriyah Gate.
Yes.
How are they shaping Abu Dhabi's global tourism industry? Tell us a little bit about these projects.
So within Saudi Arabia, not Abu Dhabi. So for Saudi Arabia's tourism sector, you need to understand that we started from a very simple base. It was mainly focused on religious tourism. We didn't have much leisure. There was a lot of business travel, and the split was roughly 60-40 in favor of religious to non-religious in 2019 and before that. So that's our historical split. The state or the government made the decision that they were going to, because we needed to accelerate the development, we looked at how we were developing the sector into two parts. There was going to be a government-led part, and again that had two parts, and then there was going to be a private sector-led part. The government-led part of it was actually taking on the development risk for these destinations. So the projects that you mentioned, the giga projects like Diriyah, Neom, the Red Sea, others in Jeddah, Qiddiya, these projects have a major tourism component within them. And these projects were developed by state enterprises, whether directed by the government or through the Public Investment Fund or through their own vehicles, because they were high risk. And because we needed them in a relatively short space of time. So the government decided to take that on and execute it. The objective was to set the benchmark for what tourism needs to look like in Saudi Arabia and probably the world, because we were starting from scratch. The second part of what the government was doing was enabling that private sector through regulatory reform, through incentivization programs that worked in the right way, and through other tools that we use within the government to ensure that the private sector would be able to come in and successfully invest in this space. Now we come to the second part, which is the role of the private sector. Initially, the private sector did not invest heavily in this space, and what we can say that over the last 5 years, we've managed to attract over 50 new brands into the kingdom. There are 44 brand new investors, people who've never invested in this space, Saudi investors who have come in and converted and come into the Saudi hospitality tourism space. The pipeline of hotels between now and 2030 is over 260,000 keys. Roughly 50% is coming from the private sector. So both the private sector and the government sector are playing complementary roles in developing the tourism offering in the kingdom.
And if I can ask you, what really are the investment opportunities in Saudi at this point?
So it's a very big country. Saudi Arabia is almost as large as India geographically, and we have almost as much diversity. So we've got opportunities across the board, whether you're looking to and I'm going to talk about opportunities in two ways. One is for investment and the other is to visit. So from an investment perspective, we have opportunities in desert destinations, resorts, activations, restaurants, F&B, retail.
So hospitality in the
hospitality plus.
Plus adventure.
And then you can take that offering and tailor it to a mountain destination or tailor it to a resort destination on the sea. Or it's a culture and heritage destination. Places like Al-Ula, who have ruins of societies that have been there for over 1,000 years. You can tailor it to a religious visit in Mecca or Medina. So the opportunities are huge. When it comes to visitation or visitors, again, the opportunity to visit and explore Saudi Arabia is massive. You have the big cosmopolitan cities, Riyadh, Jeddah, Al Khobar, but you also have some of these smaller mountain destinations or cultural destinations in Al-Hassa or Hail or Al-Ula. Again, the Red Sea for the beach, anywhere on the Red Sea is just fantastic. But we have also the Red Sea resorts that are being developed by Red Sea Global. So those are going to be class-leading resort hotels on the Red Sea. Nothing like which has been built before. So there's a lot of opportunity, both from a visitor perspective and an investor perspective.
So for both, I mean, that's interesting to see. So looking forward to, in fact, visit Saudi. But if I can ask you, obviously, when there's growth, there's also challenges. What are the challenges the country is facing at this point, and how are you planning to deal with it and tackle it?
So because this is Saudi Arabia and we're Saudis, we don't see anything as a challenge. We do see opportunity. So there is definitely an opportunity to improve some of our mid-market offering. We're very much focused on attracting the right type of visitors into the kingdom, because it's less about the number of visitors, it's more about the amount of spend that comes in.
So you're looking
and we want, and in order to make that spend the right spend, we need to have the right product, and it needs to be tailored to our source markets in order to get the maximum benefit out of it. So that balance is what we're trying to achieve. make sure that we are delivering the right product at the right quality for the right customer in the right destination.
Okay, perfect. I mean, I love the way when you said there's no challenges and opportunity. That's the optimistic way of looking at things.
Indeed.
The other thing I want to ask you, sir, is how do you ensure that Saudi Arabia remains competitive, right, against established tourism hubs? There's so many, also close to you, while also building a unique identity for itself.
So I think first and foremost, we don't look at it from a competition or competitiveness perspective.
Okay.
What we have to offer is complementary to everything else in the region. It is different. We are very much focused on the authenticity of our offering. We're very much focused on making sure that the Saudi identity comes through in everything that we do, whether it comes to the visual identity of the destinations, whether it, or going down to the level of the service that is being provided by Saudis in these hospitalities. Hotels or facilities or restaurants or even the service at the airport and the way people are welcomed in. All of that gives us that unique flavor of it being Saudi. And then within Saudi, you have also the unique flavor of each destination. And really that is the core of our value offering. And that is really the core that sets us apart from our peers in the region. Sure. So, it is a complementary offering. We don't compete, but what we do is different.
Okay, so you have that USP there, which is right.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, lastly, how has the World Economic Forum been for you here at Davos 2026? Your takeaway from here?
Look, I mean, I'll specifically focus on the tourism sector. This has been a very interesting session or conference or edition of the WEF this year. We had an agenda to come in and promote the tourism sector more strongly. We feel that it is relatively underrepresented at the WEF and in Davos. And under the leadership of our minister, we've been very focused on making sure that it takes its rightful place on the world economy and on the world stage. After all, it is 10% of global GDP, 10% of employment. It is a sector that cannot be ignored. And we must be able to bring the issues and the opportunities at forums like WEF, or even at something like what we do, which is we've inaugurated a conference in Riyadh last year called Tourist, and the main objective is to discuss these global issues, to understand how we can bring the sector together, how government and private sector can work together to deliver on healthy and sustainable growth and mitigate any risks that may come in from the sector. So it's been very exciting.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with us on NDTV.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.